Jai Sri Radhe, my friends. I'm going to attempt a series of videos about Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in particularly with reference to his autobiography. And I would like to start by just reciting 3 verses that I have composed myself in honor of my Gurudev and of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Brajendra Sutta Preyasi Charana Padma Sevagraho Muhurhi Harinamayo Rathati Agranati Priyam Tameva Kila Darshakam Madhura Bhakti Ragadvano Namami Karunamayam Hilalita Prasadam Prabhum Janaka Guru Samaksha Manugatyeti Daksha Vidita Vihita Diksha Labdha Vatsalya Shiksha Bhajanagata Manaska Sadhu Charyati Tikshna Vigata Jagadapeksha Raksha Mang Siddha Kaksha Nityananda Kripa Jala Dritatanu Sri Janava Dharaya Premna Gaur Gadadhareti Yugalam Yastattvavit Sevate Tang Tvam Godrumavasina Mukutagam Rupanuganavaram He Sri Bhaktivinoda Deva Parabang Bhaktyānamamo Vayam Brajendra Sutta Preyasi Charama Padma Sevagraho Muhurhi Harinamayo Rathati Agranati Priyam Tameva Kila Darshakam Madhura Raga Bhaktyadhano Namami Karunamayam Hilalita Prasadam Prabhum. I bow down to my most merciful Prabhu, Sri Lalita Prasad Thakur, who enthusiastically serves the lotus feet of the beloved of Brajendra Nandana, Sri Krishna, who constantly utters the holy name with loving concentration, and who has revealed to me the sweet path of Raganuga Bhakti. O Lalita Prasad Thakur, most skillful in following your Guru and Father, from him you understood the principles of proper initiation, and you also received his instruction mixed with fatherly love. You gave your mind over to bhajan, razor sharp in dedicating yourself to the path of saintly conduct, abandoning all consideration of worldly opinion. A Siddha Purush, please protect me. O worshipful Bull Bhaktivinoda Thakur, your body has been drenched in the waters of Nityananda's mercy through the channel of Srimati Janava Devi. You serve the divine couple in their form as Gaura and Gadadhara, knowing their true identities in all aspects. You are the topmost resident of Godrum Dweep and the best of the followers of Rupa Goswami. With the deepest devotion, I bow down to you. So with this auspicious invocation, I'm going to start to discuss the life and contribution of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And before I go on, I would still like to continue the Mangalacharan. Nama Om, excuse me. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswata Deva Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. When I begin this discussion, I should start by saying that at issue here is Guru-tattva. And despite all the complications and the simple statements of Shastra seem to contradict each other. And so, as a result, you have a general confusion about Guru-tattva, even though it is something that is a very fundamental principle to the entire system of spiritual knowledge and sadhana in the Indian system of spiritual realization. So whether you're a yogi or a jnani or a karmi or a bhakta, the principle of Guru-tattva is everywhere accepted. Yasya deve para bhaktir yatha deve tatha guru tasyaite katita hyartha vikasante mahatmanaha. Well, Guru-tattva obviously is something. Acharyavan Purusho Veda comes from a very old strata. Sagurum eva vigachet samitpanihi shrotriyam brahmanishtam acharyam man vijaniyat navamanyeta karhichit namartya buddhya suyeta sarvadeva mayo guru. Indeed, only with understanding Guru-tattva can we possibly hope to understand the underlying principles of self-realization. The mysteries of the universe will only be opened to one who understands the flow of Guru-tattva. So, the reason that I offer my obeisances to Bhaktivedanta Swami, even though for many people who are followers of Bhaktivedanta Swami or followers indeed of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, they find it to be offensive to the Guru-tattva that I left ISKCON, left the service of Bhaktivedanta Swami, and became a disciple of Sri Lalita Prasad Thakur. And in some ways they're quite correct. I tell a little story. I was once in Maya. Well, a great portion of my life has actually been passed, even to the present moment, I would say, where the shades of illusion have completely covered my vision. And who knows, this might be one of those moments. But at any rate, at one time I was feeling distress in my personal life. And so I went and took shelter of the ISKCON temple in Montreal. And I had a very good time, and I made a friend there who was also in a very similar situation to mine. Another person who had at one time dedicated his life to the ISKCON movement and had somehow or another found himself feeling nostalgia for the life that boy had led in the monastic Hare Krishna movement. And I was filled with admiration, actually, after all these years. And so many years, I felt that in the temple there had been accumulation of individual effort towards attaining spiritual perfection, and I was quite happy to be there in the association of the devotees. The only thing is that I wasn't allowed to speak, and indeed that was the first imposition on me, that I was there, but I wasn't allowed to talk to anybody except my friend Shaligram. And we had very nice conversations discussing our findings in the world outside of ISKCON. But eventually all good things had to end, and I was asked very politely by a committee of the more important members of the temple, obviously who were feeling somewhat intimidated by my presence there. And they found me in one of the brahmachari rooms, and I was reading Narottam Das Thakur. I was reading some of the prayers of Narottam Das Thakur. And they came in and told me that I was no longer welcome on the premises of the ISKCON temple. And I asked them what the cause for it was, and they said, well, you rejected Srila Prabhupada, did you not? And I responded by saying, I am reading Narottam Das Thakur. The only reason I'm reading Narottam Das Thakur is because Srila Prabhupada introduced me to him. And therefore, my connection to Narottam Das Thakur comes through Bhaktivedanta Swami. There's no doubt about it. And surely Srila Prabhupada would be pleased if he saw me reading Narottam Das Thakur. Now, I'm not saying that the real historical Srila Prabhupada would have been pleased with me in general. It seems quite clear that he wanted his disciples to stay in ISKCON and to work together. At least that was his direct instruction. But my intuition at the time of Srila Prabhupada's disappearance, though I felt that emotional moment very, very strongly, just like many, many of the other devotees did at that time. Even I was in Mayapur, not in Vrindavan itself, but the emotional explosion that these devotees, and around the world, the devotees who loved Srila Prabhupada, they felt this outpouring of emotion. And I also felt that. But accompanying that emotion was that, who will be my teacher now? Now, we know that in ISKCON, that the devotees of Prabhupada, they generally speaking talk to Prabhupada's books. They say that the Prabhupada's books, that this is where Prabhupada is present, and his continued presence in his books is where Guru-tattva resides. Just like in the Bhagavatam, when the sages ask, where does Krishna reside? now that he's left the physical universe. And they were told that the Puranarko Dhanoditam, Krishne Swadhamopagate, he has gone to his own abode, and with him has gone Dharma. But this Purana, this Bhagavata Purana, has risen like the sun to efface the darkness that arose with his absence. So in the same way, Prabhupada left and said that my presence is now in my books, so look for me there. And we bow down to A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami for the magnificent contribution that he made. But personally, I was thinking more along the lines of personal guidance and personal instruction. Now, obviously, a ISKCON devotee or a Prabhupada disciple would immediately tell me that that's where I went wrong. But it was already my feeling at that time that from my study of the Bhagavad Gita, that the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita was Buddhi Yoga, and that although Arjuna took shelter of Krishna and took instruction from him, that the ultimate goal of the practice that Krishna was teaching as Guru was to accede to the Supreme Paramatma who resides in everyone's heart, to the presence of Krishna, which is present in every devotee's heart, and to hear the voice of intelligence that comes through this divine source. So the Gita is not a way of telling you how to subsume your individuality to authority. It's how to become free of authority and to find the supreme authority directly. This is a subject that I've just been talking about a little bit in relation. It's also related to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and I'll probably speak about it in more detail later on as we go on. But it's the arrival of the printing press. So the printing press had a certain effect on European society and European religion when it came into being. And the same effect took place in India when the printing press made the corpus of Hindu scriptures more easily available. And that process is still going on, obviously, as even I participated a little bit and added my 2 cents to that effort by digitizing the texts related to Gaudiya Vaishnavism and Chaitanya Vaishnavism, to make those things searchable so that one individual can accumulate a greater base of understanding of the time and mood of Chaitanya and the Chaitanya Bhakti religion, the history of Chaitanya Bhakti. All these things were what I was trying to understand, and in the interests of truth, as far as history can know historical truth, as far as we can know historical truth. And that's another big part of this whole discussion that I'm going to have about Bhaktivinoda Thakur, because these are questions that Bhaktivinoda Thakur himself tackled, and therefore they are questions that we ourselves should try to become conversant with. So understanding history, this is obviously at the crux of the matter. The concept of Guru-tattva, Guru-parampara, the importance of Diksha, the relationship of Diksha to Shiksha, the kind of historical situations in which these different developments arose, and how they were a response to real or imagined situations. These are all a part of this discussion. So when I made my break with ISKCON and went to Lalita Prasad Thakur, that was not actually a break with ISKCON at all. It was an external break, but it was not a break with Bhaktivedanta Swami, and it was certainly not a break with the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. As a matter of fact, my great interest was in authenticity. So Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada inculcated in us a belief in the unbroken disciplic succession. An unbroken disciplic succession. This was the... So now, when I found out, of course, about the problems surrounding the Diksha Parampara, then it was then that I found out the counter-argument that there was something called a Bhagavata Parampara, and it was the Bhagavata Parampara that was unbroken. Well, and that this Bhagavata Parampara, this unbroken Parampara, operated in strange ways. It didn't need direct human contact. It could spring across generations. And it could pass from people who had never met each other from one to the other, and so on. And the more I studied this matter, the more it obviously became full of. There was no logic or reason to this, and perhaps I was, in the absurdum est credo quod absurdum est, is this famous ancient Christian saying. I believe it because it's absurd. It's too crazy to not be true. That's where the Christians arrived with their story of crucifixion and resurrection and atonement and sacrifice and all the other things that go into this mystery of Christ and the salvation from sin through the self-sacrifice of Jesus, and so on and so forth. Absurdo, credo quod absurdum est. I love it. Well, we have a bit of that also, this attempt to paper over irrationalities. And this is, of course, the atheists and the rationalists, they love this about religion. They feel as though they're intellectually in some kind of sweet shop where they have nothing but idiocies to point out and to mock. Well, I think that all religions have, in some way, attempted to find rationality in their doctrines. So now I'm going to get ahead of myself here, and I'm sorry that it's going to happen. So this just means that in the course of doing this series of lectures, I'm going to repeat myself like mad, and I'm going to have to ask for forgiveness for all that. But anyway, the understanding of history is very crucial to this discussion. And for me, when I was in ISKCON, I found myself in a process of historical research. And it wasn't really historical research in the sense of, I don't understand how other people are inspired for historical research, but I was interested in the concept of authenticity. So so Prabhupada had convinced us, this was the preaching of Srila Prabhupada, he had convinced us that this was the authentic Vedic message, that this was the Bhagavad Gita as it is, and that what was being presented to us was the true doctrine of the Vedic civilization. It was at the basis and the essence of all the Vedas and so on and so forth. And this was authenticity. This was the authentic. And also that it was the authentic representation of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then it was the authentic representation of, first of all, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. And then it was the authentic representation of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and so on. In a disciplic succession, one would expect that the principle there is that it's somehow an authentic representation. Bhaktivedanta Swami did say that it was putting old wine into new bottles, and that's quite correct. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur was at the basis of this doctrine, because Bhaktivinoda Thakur, with his one central kind of principle that Bhaktivinoda Thakur tried to inculcate, and that really figures prominently in many of his books, especially the earliest ones. So from the Bhagavata, the book on the Bhagavatam, and onward to his Dr. Kaustubh, and onward to Krishna Samhita, and also in other places. He mentions the term Saragrahi, contrasting it with Bharavahi. And this is, I've noticed that in all the people who are researching Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, they all manage to grasp this point, and they all feel very happy about this idea. The Saragrahi is the person, the essence seeker, and the essence seeker finds the core message and tries to use that as the driving principle of his understanding. And this is also the way that Jiva Goswami works in the Sandarbhas as well. That Padvadanti tattva vidas tattvam yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdyate. This verse is a central principle for understanding the first three Sandarbhas, at least the second and third. And then the fourth Sandarbha is driven by the Ete Chang Shakala Pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishneti. The Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, this is the driving principle. It's a Mahavakya. He doesn't use the term Mahavakya, he has other terminology that he uses. But the basic principle is the same as that of a Mahavakya. That the Mahavakya of the Vedas, Tattvamasi and Anandam, Brahma, and all these things that are, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma, the great Mahavakyas that Shankaracharya used as his fundamental guide to understanding or to finding the unifying essence of all the Vedanta. That's contained in these Mahavakyas. So in the same way, we have these unifying Mahavakyas in the Bhagavatam that are overriding principles that we accept. And so even if there is apparent debate or apparent contradiction, we use the axiomatic truths presented in the Mahavakyas, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavan, Vadanti Yajnanam Advayam, this Advayam Jnanam, known as Brahma, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. These are, fundamental, rock-hard principles. The Sara Vakya, the Chatur Shloki, these are the Sara Vakya. Very nicely there in the Bhagavatam, you have the 4 fundamental verses of the Bhagavatam. And then you have thousands of other verses. So how did these 4 seed verses flower out into all these other subjects that have nothing to do with them, which seem to grow in a 1,000-branched tree, but somehow or another you don't always catch this fundamental principle, or at least these fundamental principles seem almost Upanishadic in their character and do not particularly fit into into a theistic imagination such as one has in Krishna Bhakti, the rasa dance, the the gopis' yearnings for Krishna, the departure from Vrindavan to Mathura, the battles with demons, all these things seem somehow or another to not have a great connection to the Chatushloki. And yet there they are, those are the essence. So, and of course, saying that something is the essence, there's more to it than that, because each word of the Shastra has some essential understanding. And of course, once one becomes a student of the Shastra, one will narrow it down. One will narrow down the essential teachings, and one will live by certain teachings that are the most essential. And one will measure all things in terms of that essential understanding. So in my view, the essential understanding is that Guru-tattva is an essential understanding. And Guru-parampara, getting it from Prabhupada himself, the unbroken disciplic succession, the concept that there is a parampara, that there is a tradition that is no doubt evolving. Okay, so now this is where Bhaktivinoda Thakur comes in. That Bhaktivinoda Thakur, by being a Saragrahi, he was ready to accept the principle of evolution of ideas. And he was ready to accept that concept of evolution of ideas by the very fact of the presence of the avatar, the golden avatar, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He accepted that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu represented a pivotal moment in history when religious understanding was given a little bit of an evolutionary boost. So for Bhaktivinoda Thakur and for the Vaishnavas, for the Madhura Rasa Vaishnavas of this Bhakti period, that this was considered to be a revelation and something that was novel, anarpita, charim, chirat, karunayava tirnah kalo, samarpayitum unnato jvala rasam svabhakti sriyam hari purata sundara dyuti kadamba sandipitaha sada hridaya kandare spuratu na sachinandanaha. So this idea of an unprecedented insight into the divine being and an unprecedented method of attaining the divine being and an unprecedented vision of the perfection, the perfectibility and the perfection of human life, that this had somehow or another had opened new doors with the presence of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and thus fulfilling his mission as an avatar, fulfilling the definition of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as an avatar. So in the quest for authenticity, one proceeds upwards, let's say, through the disciplic succession given by Bhaktivedanta Swami or by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, the one that passes from Bhaktivedanta to Bhaktisiddhanta to Gaur Kishore, then to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and then we have other members of this Bhagavata Parampara. But if one follows the disciplic succession, if Bhaktivinoda Thakur is to be included in this disciplic succession, as one searches for the authentic character and the authentic nature of each of these participants in the historical development of Krishna Bhakti, we will see that they sacrificed something of the authenticity. Not entirely, I don't say that. I say that in some respects, they sacrificed some of the authenticity. And the reason that they sacrificed that authenticity was because of the spiritual break with the parampara that was made by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. I don't like to say these things, of course, because but we see the developments and we admire the accomplishments of both of these two traditions, the Gaudiya Math tradition and the ISKCON tradition, and we admire the way that individuals who have dedicated themselves to serving the visions of their respective gurus in these two channels of the Chaitanya movement. But I was interested, as I say, in authenticity. And so passing through to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, it seemed, of course, that Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a far more significant figure than Gaur Kishore Das Babaji. With all due respect to Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, there's a very mysterious kind of leela that transpired between Gaur Kishore Das Babaji and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. But Gaur Kishore Das Babaji was, in the understanding that I have, of course these things are hearsay, and so what do I know about my Gurudev? That he did not believe that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati received a bona fide, let's say, a genuine initiation from Gaur Kishore Das Babaji. And it's clear, of course, from the Gaudiya Math that the role of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur far exceeds that of anybody else, any other influence, including that of Gaur Kishore. So it's it's the dhara, what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati preached, the message of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He preached the books of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. His basis of literature, his literary basis, was in the texts written by, and translated by, and produced by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and then he just simply added to that, and others later on added to that. But the fundamental literary basis of the Gaudiya Math, the reason that the Gaudiya Math was independent of the rest of one of the reasons at least, let's say, was the commitment to Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So then it became important when it was known that there was some conflict, there was some discussion about a different kind of sampradaya that Bhaktivinoda Thakur had prominently referred to his Diksha Guru, not only in his autobiography but elsewhere in his writings. He followed, and the particular significant moment in 1885 with the 400th anniversary of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance day. Not his own guru, but the entire community of acharyas who were at that time prominent in the Bhagnapara disciplic succession, they all honored Kedarnath Datta with the title Bhaktivinoda. So this was a strong connection, and it was a strong mutual connection, and we can talk about that a little bit more later on. And obviously we'll have cause to do so. But the point being that for me, this was a significant problem. I found that first of all, that I did not like developments in ISKCON. Well, to go even before that, from my insight on the moment that Bhaktivedanta Swami disappeared from the world, that I still needed to get, that there was something missing, that there was something incomplete that I needed to get from another source. That was the first thing. And the second thing was this problem, and this problem has several dimensions, but the fundamental problem for me, and the fundamental problem for Sri Lalita Prasad Thakur, and what I believe that was the fundamental problem for Bhaktivinoda Thakur himself, and the reason that he would not give initiation. The story goes as I've heard it, and I'm not attributing unlimited truth value to this story. It's hearsay. But the story is that that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati found himself in a position where he was unable to take initiation from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And so to do so, he went to Gaur-Kishore Das Babaji. And Gaur-Kishore Das Babaji said to him, "Why are you coming to me when you have your father, who is obviously so much more qualified and so much more responsible for your inclination to bhakti, for your knowledge, for the accumulation of knowledge, for your shastric knowledge. Your father has given you all these things. Your particular critique, your particular understanding, your particular insights are all born of the experience that you had in relationship with your father. So why are you coming to me? Go to your father." And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati continued to pressure Gaur-Kishore Das Babaji to give him initiation. And whether he took it or not, there are some stories. The one that I heard was that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati played his Shastanga Dandavats, and while Gaur-Kishore Das Babaji didn't see him, and he was accidentally kicked or touched by the foot of Gaur-Kishore Das Babaji, and Gaur-Kishore Das Babaji said the name Hare Krishna, and that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati took as being his initiation from Gaur-Kishore Das Babaji. But of course, this is he characterized this as being Bhagavati Diksha, and that you can find in his Brahman and Vaishnava book. All right. Well, just let me conclude there then, to say that for me, I had been sufficiently indoctrinated in the principle of the aparad to the holy name, and the aparad, one of those aparads, and one of those aparads is Gurur Avagya, and Gurur Avagya to me is a significant offense to the holy name, and I could not see this particular rejection of Bhaktivinoda Thakur as being something in the lines of Gurur Avagya. And with research, it became obvious that the reason that this connection through initiation was impossible for Bhaktivinoda Thakur was that it would require him to give some, to honor the personality of Vipin Bihari Goswami. And at the time of the formation of the Gaudiya Math, and at the time that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati inaugurated his concept of the Guru-parampara, it was impossible for him to offer the kind of respect to Guru that was necessary for him to offer to Vipin Bihari Goswami. And this, of course, made it impossible for him to establish a Diksha relationship with Bhaktivinoda Thakur, his own father. It would have been a case of, well, it is a case of Ardha Kukuti Nyaya. You can't accept your Guru and not accept his Guru, especially not if he accepts his Guru. I mean, think about it for a second, all you people who consider me to have disrespected and dishonored Bhaktivedanta Swami, to have committed an act of treason or whatever to Bhaktivedanta Swami, for having left ISKCON, for having changed my allegiance, so to speak. But from the point of view of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, it would seem also that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, by rejecting his Guru, was also committing a very similar act of egregious independence. Well, these things will have to be spoken about in a little more detail, but I hope that that's a good introduction. Let's upload this one, my friends. Om सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्ति 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 हरि ओम तत्सत् जय श्री राधे जय श्री राधे जय जय श्री राधे।